Good morning, kiddos. This rant is entitled Why I Love America or Happy Anniversary, United States of America. So I originally wrote this rant back in September of 2020. It seems appropriate to repost it now that we're celebrating the country's 250th anniversary. So as you read this rant or listen to it, keep that date in mind given the context of the article. As always, if you like it, please share it. If you love what you hear, please hit the subscribe button at the bottom. The subscriptions are free and position me to make a whole lot more of these. That said, here goes. You know, until the recent turbulent events, I really hadn't thought much about why I love America. And if you recall, the riots in Minneapolis were happening back in 2020 when I first wrote that. So that's the context. I really hadn't thought much about why I love America. I mean, it's kind of like marrying a fantastic woman. You're head over heels while you're dating, and you're on cloud nine immediately after you get married. Then these little monsters come along, yeah, you guys, and eat up all your time and money. And then you start to take the sensational person for granted. She's still phenomenal, but in the soup of dealing with the raising knuckleheads and managing a career, you forget to stop and appreciate how amazing she is. Then a few disasters come along the way and help bring you back to appreciating what you have instead of wondering about what you don't have. Then you look up and realize that you have gold right under your roof, which is analogous to my relationship with my country. Excuse me. Only with threatening with losing her did I stop to realize just how fantastic she is. And America has been fantastic during my lifetime. Stores overflowing with food, great schools, great universities, good jobs, no fighting in the streets, no wars fought on our own soil. It's easy to start taking her for granted, like that great woman that I married. But only when things start to go sideways do we step back and remember to be thankful for what we've got. And remember what's great about her. The pronoun applies to both wife and country. And when you do that, you start to get amazed. You start to have an attitude of gratitude. So you know your mama's great, so I don't have to go there. But let me tell you why your country is great. Buckle up, Spanky, because this list is so amazing. Consider the blues of B.B. King and Muddy Waters, the soul of Aretha Franklin and Ray Charles, the country western of Johnny Cash and Patsy Cline, the gospel of Mahalia Jackson and Andre Crouch, and the rock of the Rolling Stones and Bruce Springsteen. What about the folks music of the Mamas and the Papas? How about the swing of Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin? Find me another country where this happens. Where else are musical styles literally invented from scratch and produce jazz like Miles Davis, Louis Armstrong, or John Coltrane, or ragtime with Scott Joplin and Irving Berlin? Answer, nowhere else on earth. Where else can you find at the push of a button and watch a Tom Brady, a Michael Jordan, a Sugar Ray Leonard, or Mike Tyson? What other country develops a Tiger Woods and an Arnold Palmer, a Billie Jean King and a Serena Williams, a Steve Prefontaine and a Wayne Gretzky, and of course, perhaps the greatest sports rivalry of all time, Muhammad Ali versus Smoking Joe Frazier? Answer, nowhere else on earth. And consider the geographic beauty. Where else can I find a Bryce National Park and a Grand Canyon, a Yosemite National Park and the Avenue of the Giants, home of the mighty redwoods and sequoias? Where else can I find the majesty of the Rocky Mountains and the 120-degree heat of the Mojave Desert and Death Valley? And I haven't even mentioned Alaska. Wow. Or how about the Snake River Canyon and the mighty Columbia River, the Mississippi Delta and the Great Lakes? Did you know that over 20% of the world's fresh water is stored in the Great Lakes? Bounded on the west by the magnificent Pacific and in the east by the spectacular Atlantic Oceans. Then there are the cities. In a word, wow. I'm just stunned at the majesty of our unbelievable cities, the unbelievable architecture of New York City, the sensational history of Philadelphia. I remember seeing the Chrysler Building and the Empire State Buildings on our trip to the Big Apple. You guys remember that? Remember that trip to San Francisco and seeing both the Golden Gate and the Bay Bridges? Or the Verrazano Narrows Bridge in New York City, which happens to be the second tallest bridge in the world, with towers the size of a 70-story building. But it's not just the large cities. I absolutely love the homey small town feel of Wairika, California, Wesson, Mississippi, Cedar City, Utah. I find the cities large and small in our country to be populated by amazing and loving people. And speaking of the people, that's the best part about our country. I love how Bostonians can't seem to enunciate the letter R, ka, right? And how the folks from New Jersey speak at 5,000 words a minute. I get a kick out of talking to my southern friends from the deep south with the twang, or the other parts of the south who have the drawl. When I travel to Mississippi to New Jersey, I have to learn to go from slow-mo speech to machine gun fire speech. Then there's traveling to Minnesota and learning that there's no difference at all between a bag, and a bag, And of course, there's California where the infamous Valley Girls speak. We all speak English, well, sort of. When I was bused into the white school district as a kid, I remember having to explain to my white classmates that a flow is something you walk on, a dough is what you open to go into a room, po is you don't have any money, a stow, that's where you buy things, and a hoe, well, that's a very bad girl. Then there are the dams like the Grand Coulee in Washington State, seventh largest dam by power generation in the entire world. And the Hoover Dam on the Nevada-Arizona border, to see them in person is just a jaw-dropping experience. The United States is so large that it's the third biggest country in the world, spanning 7 time zones and 3,000 miles from east to west. But it's so small that I can fly from Los Angeles to New York, go to a sports bar, and wind up in a friendly argument with a Hispanic guy, a white guy, on whether the Celtics or the Lakers are the best sports franchise in history. Where else can that happen? As I've traveled to 46 of the 50 states, I can't help noticing the tremendous architecture that belie her Judeo-Christian foundations. There is the Grace Cathedral in San Francisco, St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York City, the Trinity Church in Boston, the Cathedral of the Blessed Sacrament in Sacramento, and the Washington National Cathedral in D.C. As you drive across the country, the landscape is littered with the detritus of her moral roots. It seems you can't drive more than 5 miles in any American city without coming across a Catholic, Methodist, Church of Christ, Mormon, Episcopalian, Baptist, Adventist, Lutheran, Quaker, Amish, a synagogue, or a Pentecostal church. And of course, that list is not all inclusive, not even close. The names of her great cities in several states are a testament to her Judeo-Christian roots. St. Louis, St. Louis IX of France. San Francisco, St. Francis of Assisi. Corpus Christi, Body of Christ. Pennsylvania, William Penn. Los Angeles, the Angels. Philadelphia, Brotherly Love. And Sacramento, the Sacraments. There are literally hundreds of small towns with names that have biblical origins like Bethany, Bethlehem, Salem, Jericho, Lebanon, Damascus, Providence, Maryland, Annapolis, St. Petersburg, Memphis, and Canaan, all biblical names. My guess is that 90% of the private universities have religious origins like the University of Notre Dame, Loyola Marymount University, DePaul University, Baylor, Pepperdine, Brigham Young, and Gonzaga University, just to name a few. Many of the great hospitals have religious names and origins as well. Consider UMPC Presbyterian in Shadyside in Pittsburgh, Barre Jewish Hospital in St. Louis, Beth Israel Deaconess in Boston, Baylor in Dallas, Aurora and St. Luke's Medical in Milwaukee, Advocate Good Samaritan in Illinois, Christ Hospital in Cincinnati, Providence St. Vincent in Portland. In our local area, hospitals with names like St. Joseph's, Emmanuel, St. Vincent's, and Seventh-day Adventist are all within a 30-minute drive. Even the names of the great charitable organizations communicate morality. The Salvation Army, the YMCA, which stands for Young Men's Christian Association, Lutheran Services in America, and the Red Cross. Can it get any more obvious than a Red Cross? Then there are the references to the first Americans. Most Americans don't know that Seattle is named after Chief Seattle, leader of the Duwamish Indian tribe. Sports teams and school mascots remind us of that great history. We have the Utes, the Seminoles, the Warriors, Choctaw, Apache, and the Aztecs. Of course, there is a move afoot to erase the memory from history by eliminating these mascot names. I do not believe that's wise. And then there are the legendary entrepreneurs and scientists whose endeavors have made our lives infinitely more comfortable. Many companies boast their names. Consider Thomas Edison, George Westinghouse, Henry Ford, Jack Northrop, Howard Hughes, Robert Sears, Aaron Montgomery Ward, Charles Pfizer, George Merck, Will Kellogg, Walt Disney, and William Dillard. If you say just the last name, everyone thinks of the corporation. But if you add the first name, you recognize that these corporations began their existence in the mind of a single individual. And you realize that the individual's desire to get what they wanted helped millions of people to get what they needed. Ah, the brilliance of capitalism and Adam Smith. Even our evil Robin Bear businessmen are phenomenal. Andrew Carnegie gave away his entire fortune to create the public library system we currently enjoy. He also went on to help Booker T. Washington launch the Tuskegee Institute, leading to the development of the historical black university system. I bet they don't teach you that in the public school system. Then there's John Rockefeller's assistance in building the University of Chicago and developing vaccines against yellow fever and meningitis. Not to be outdone, there's John Paul Getty and his funding of the arts. Then there are stories like Abe Saperstein, a Jewish businessman who founded the Harlem Globetrotters. Mr. Saperstein founded an all-black basketball team in the middle of the Great Depression. What a story. Perhaps the two most maligned races in the country coming together to form what will become one of the best marketeers of racial unity ever created, all during the middle of the Great Depression. Courtesy of a Jewish businessman, the world got Meadowlark Lemon and Curly Neal. Really, you can't make this up. I appreciate the fact that although America is the wealthiest country in the world, it's also the most generous country in the world, giving away around 3% of its net income annually, more than any other country in the world. America also boasts the highest net migration of any country in the world at over 4 million per year. If you're ever wondering about a country's desirability, just look at the direction of its immigration. People vote with their feet. That tells you all they need to know. So just what is the formula to create a country that drove its own life expectancy for 48 years in 1900 to its current 79 years of age? America's existence almost certainly was the primary mover in driving world life expectancy from 30 years of age to 72 years of age in that same time period. What is the formula to produce a country willing to fight a civil war over slavery and lose 600,000 of our own citizens to end the evil practice? Slavery has been in existence for over 6,000 years. Judeo-Christian Great Britain and the United States are the only two countries in history to ever lift a finger to stop it. And while they did put a giant dent in the practice, it continues in India, China, Pakistan, North Korea, Nigeria, Iran, Indonesia, the Congo, Russia, and the Philippines. What is the formula that produced this aforementioned greatness? I've ruminated on the answer to this question for quite some time. And I think there are three key ingredients to the formula. The formulas are the following three parts. A, the moral code based on Judeo-Christian principles housed in the Bible. B, a system of Smithian free market economics. The book was Wealth of Nations, written by Adam Smith. And C, a Jeffersonian constitutional republic written by James Madison and Thomas Jefferson. Kiddos, I think that's the formula. If you remove any one of those three ingredients, she will implode. Tinker with them, yes. Improve each of the ingredients by all means. But if you eliminate any one of them or all of them, recent history tells us what the results will be catastrophic. Russia, Germany, China, North Vietnam, and Cambodia all eliminated each of these ingredients within the last 100 years. And the results? Over 200 million lives lost to civil wars, international wars, and mass starvation. I'm reminded of G.K. Chesterton's famous adage, don't ever take down a fence until you know what the reason was for putting it up in the first place. That's why I love the United States of America, and now you know why she is great. Peace out. Ciao.